The mechanic opens with the shine of Penguin's nice hood ornament during a chase, which immediately establishes the villain, the topic of cars, but also the idea of craftsmanship. It's shiny, it's prestigious, but also not as cool as the Batmobile.
Is he kidding?
Both cars then get wrecked.
Oh, looks like Earl's got his work cut out for him.
Thus, we get introduced to Batman's mechanic, Earl Cooper, and his daughter, Marva. Subsequently, there's two stories at play in this episode. A fun, childlike romp where Penguin traces the Batmobile's custom car parts to Earl, and then exploits him for a goofy Batman Returns rig the Batmobile with a remote control stick.
What are you doing?
So in the same way this sign in the episode calls Gotham America's playground, the adventure itself certainly feels like one too.
And do take a good long look at your friend, the Batman.
After all, you'll be saying adieu to your best customer.
The second story is about Earl, a simple common man who takes part in your friendly neighborhood Batman's mission.
Something changing your mind.
This is one of my favorite BTAS episodes, even though it's widely regarded as meh. Even Bruce Timm and gang thought it was a stinker, but they needed a script anyways. Furthermore, it was also the last one animated by Acom, so everyone has really pudgy faces. I love this episode, probably because I find the concept really touching. In the DCAU, Batman's car isn't made by Lucius Fox or someone on the inside, but instead, he trusts an ordinary citizen, someone down on his luck, someone very affable. The story of Earl Cooper is that years ago he worked for Global Motors, but then identified a braking issue with their new sports car. However, the legal team figured out they could just get away with it.
We're talking about people's lives here.
Thus, when Earl left in disgust, they sent a bunch of buff dudes to beat him up to keep him silent, just in case.
Suggest we take steps to minimize our risk,
But Batman was listening the whole time, because he's so passionate about justice, especially in the automobile industry apparently. Immediately, Earl is established as someone who has very similar principles, but it's not out of darkness or trauma, just a common sense of justice. He's us, effectively. He's not a young, fit kung fu man or is financially powerful. In fact, after being saved, can't get a job because he's labeled as a whistleblower, even after 20 years working in the business.
I was down to my last dime, no money, no job, and no prospects for one. And then he saved my life again.
There's no real rational logic behind Batman recruiting a regular, normal person, because by nature, Earl is a loose end. Especially when you're giving him the most significant asset in your bloody citywide war on crime. The only logic is that Batman knew a good man needed an opportunity.
I need a new car.
So with his money and a good reason, he let this passionate mechanic build something beautiful. And Earl did.
It took me 6 months to come up with the design specs alone.
So Batman reciprocated by looking after him. He got Earl a huge garage, let his imagination run wild, let his daughter help, and even paid everything in cash, so he wouldn't have to worry about taxes.
He paid for everything. Cash.
I probably sound like a boob, but the idea that the car we see at the start of every episode isn't a repurposed military vehicle or something made by the Wayne R&D department or even Batman himself, because he's apparently good at everything, but was instead made by an ordinary citizen in Gotham, a middle-aged mechanic who got punished for doing the right thing, but his efforts didn't go unnoticed. It's oddly beautiful. This car isn't this outside thing, but was made by the very people in Gotham.
I'll call you in a couple of days.
Better make it a week.
The Batman in the anime series is very warm and actively not insular. He doesn't just protect Gotham as a distant entity, but Gotham itself is one of his greatest allies. And this episode is a microcosm of this relationship. We are Earl, and Earl is us. Okay, that's going a bit far, but you know what I mean. Anyways, Penguin takes Marva and forces Earl to trick Batman, but Earl gives some hints about basements and the air conditioning and stuff.
Right.
Which is what gets the dynamic duo out of it when Penguin wasted precious minutes driving them in circles as opposed to, I don't know, putting a bomb in the car or immediately driving them into a building. Instead, he does the polite thing of just messing them around and driving them in an open air field.
Huh? Earl, you kept saying basement. It's a racing term.
This is all pretty goofy stuff that's clearly just here to justify why this episode exists at all as an adventure, but what grounds it are the really moving reactions. Marva drops her head in sadness over what seems to be the death of two good men. When Earl overhears it, he furiously defies his guard and in tears traps him. This middle-aged man who can't do anything, but used some old ties and a hook to do what Batman once did for him really broke my heart. There's something so feeble about all of this. He succeeds, but that doesn't stop the raw remorse and shame.
It was a magnificent vehicle.
However, the resolution is pretty simple. Batman and Robin escapes and Nick Penguin after Marva steps on his toes. Earl packs his bags, but he's not fired. Batman is actually really excited to send him to a new garage, and he set up a load of dummy corporations to filter the purchases now.
But this time I had my backers set up dummy corporations to order the parts through, so no one can ever trace you again.
Yeah?
While Earl is excited to reciprocate with his talents. If anyone's gonna get anything out of this video, I'd say this reciprocation and sympathy is what makes the episode for me. Batman here represents a very specific communal, friendly neighborhood sense of justice and honor.
What happened? You been letting the kid drive again? Ha ha.
Whereas operations can only succeed and have an edge against the entire crime world because he's willing to risk his secrets and life with the ordinary, with the very people he stands above, supposedly. But instead of looking down on them, he invites them up with him. In the end, he still trusts Earl. They're both excited to carry on.
Wait till you see the new Batmobile. It's gonna have tritium thrusters, dual accelerators, fuel-injected turbo boosters.
Earl isn't just loyal to this dude he doesn't know anything about, outside of him being a kind and just soul, but Batman feels the same back. Nothing changes, and that's what I think is valuable. We saw their partnership get stress test. Thus, we saw how strong it is. These connections Batman has is what makes him more. It's what gives him the edge over the criminals who do nothing but harm and exploit.
We're stranded and beaten, reaching for helping hands. We may be defeated, but we'll see the make amends. When the time's right, we're gonna get all that's good. Yeah, when the time's right. Oh, when the time's right.
So I was working on my Smallville Season 10 video, but I wanted my Tess Mercer video to be released before it, but since she's also appears in the Season 11 comics, I have to start reading them now. So I made this video in its place instead, because I remember loving this episode as a kid. So it's just a great pleasure revisiting it. Anyways, special thanks to everyone on Patreon. I love you guys, and cool.